assumption was that the length of the sarcomeres was consistent throughout. But if we were to change the length of the sarcomere, then we would get differences in tension, correct? So to make sure that you understand what I'm saying, and what those two students asked. Again, great questions, guys. So a certain amount of tension is generated. All right? You know what? Let's make that one bigger. The greatest amount of tension, because that was our sarcomere at 2 to 2.25 microns. And when we had a sarcomere length of either greater than 2.25 or less than 2.0, less tension is generated. Okay? But we're going to keep that sarcomere at either the perfect length or the not so perfect length. And we're going to stimulate it and then let it relax. We're going to stimulate it and then let it relax. So what we're going to do is that we're going to keep it at that. What are we going to get each and every time? The exact same tension. If we allow it to relax, we're going to get the exact same tension. Okay, can we change the tension by changing sarcomere length? Yes. But you're not going to change the tension by changing the stimulus strength. You will change the tension by changing the frequency. So what the students did was they tried to tie what we had done earlier with length tension to this story about how you stimulate a muscle cell and always get the same tension, again, with the frequency of 1 per second, for example. They're not related, they're two completely different phenomena. Okay? Does that make sense? All right? As long as the length of the sarcomere is the same, either 2 to 2.25 or 3 or 1.8, the tension's always going to be the same. Always. All right? Are we good? So, again, to be completely 100% clear, always going to be the same. Always going to be the same. Or if all of a sudden we change the sarcomere length to, I don't know, 2, 3, smaller, but it's always going to be the same. It's always going to be the same. If you allow it to contract or relax, the tension is always going to be the same. Okay? Are we good? Hang on. Yes, question. No. This is a phenomenon that we discussed before the muscle contracts. So when you're talking about the muscle cell contracting all the time, that's completely out the window. With what? Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. Again, they're two completely different phenomena. Again, there is a crap load that I'm not telling you guys. So there are a lot of other proteins within the myofibril that gives it these elastic properties that cause this particular phenomenon to occur. Okay? It's cool that you guys are digging. I dig that you're digging. All right? That tells me that you guys are getting it, and I like that. Okay? And continue to ask questions. All right, now what? Let's go to this story. Oops, this story. We're going to talk about how we get more tension in a whole muscle. And I'm going to concentrate now on a bigger stimulus. When it came to making a single muscle cell contract harder, it was the frequency, not the magnitude. Complete opposite now is what I'm going to be talking about in a whole muscle. So we're going to take this whole muscle here and we're going to stimulate it. And we're going to stimulate the nerve. This is a nerve, right? Is that a nerve? All those axons bundled together, is that a nerve? Yes. Stephen taught you that earlier on this semester. A nerve is a whole bunch of peripheral axons bundled together. And the analogy that I gave you earlier on was, think of it These are the little threads in the rope, that's an axon. The entire rope, that's the nerve. So we have a nerve here, made up of, the way that I've drawn it, 3 axons. Now our nerve's bigger than that, of course they are. But we're gonna keep it simple, okay? So what we're gonna do is, we're going to stimulate that nerve, okay? And we're gonna see what happens to the muscle as we do that. And the stimulus is gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger. We're gonna have a subthreshold stimulus, a threshold stimulus. Are those familiar to you? Submaximal, maximal, supramaximal. So we're gonna do something very similar that we did with action potential frequency earlier on in the semester, but with a different cell. So this is tension. This is the tension in a whole muscle. Again, not one muscle cell, a whole muscle. Okay? We're going to stimulate right here. And the stimulus that we're going to have is going to be a subthreshold stimulus. And what happens with the subthreshold stimulus is nothing. Why? When we talk about a subthreshold stimulus, when we're stimulating this nerve, we don't stimulate it enough to generate any action potentials in any of those axons. If we don't have any action potentials in any of those axons, are we going to release acetylcholine at any of those synapses? No. Are we going to generate any action potentials in the muscle cells? If we don't stimulate the axon enough to generate an action potential, we're not going to get the release of acetylcholine. We're not going to bind to the nicotinic. None of this happens. And if none of this happens, now one of the muscle cells is going to contract. So when we have a subthreshold stimulus, no axons in the nerve get stimulated. And if no axons get stimulated, then we have no contraction, and that's why that line remains flat. Okay? Now what we're going to do is, right there is going to be a threshold stimulus. And what we're going to get with the threshold stimulus is finally some tension that's being generated, but not a whole lot. All right? So a threshold stimulus, what does it do? It is going to stimulate one axon. So we're going to stimulate one motor unit. One motor unit is stimulated. So the way we have it drawn here, how many muscle cells are going to contract with a threshold stimulus? How many? One muscle cell? How many muscle cells are going to contract? 3. One motor unit. I didn't say one muscle cell, I said one motor unit. Now, if the motor unit was 1,000 cells big, then 1,000 muscle cells would contract. If the motor unit was 6 cells big, then 6 muscle cells would contract. One motor unit contracts. So let's just say that this nerve right here, this axon right here is the one that, no, we'll do this one. This is the one. And that means that this muscle cell, and this muscle cell, and that muscle cell contracted at the same time, generating tension. That's what a threshold stimulus is going to give you. By the way, it's not going to be enough tension to cause movement. You have no idea that's happening. 0 idea. A threshold stimulus will not cause the movement. You can have your little pinky, and if your pinky moves even this much, that's not a threshold stimulus. A threshold stimulus is a stimulus that will only cause one motor unit to be activated, and it is not enough to generate movement of any kind. It might feel like a little butterfly landed on your skin. That's the feeling you might get if you actually do feel this. You'd never feel it, unless you were really paying attention. All right? It's not going to picking up a feather, forget it, it ain't happening. You have to stimulate a lot more motor units than just one to even make your little pinky move this much. All right? Does this happen? It does. Is it going to cause motor movement? It will not. Okay? Now we're going to increase the stimulus. Now we're going to get more tension. Okay? As we increase the stimulus, we're going to recruit more motor units. Why? Because we're going to stimulate more axons in the nerve. But we're not going to hit our maximum yet. So we're at what's called a sub-maximal stimulus. We'll do another one here. Make the arrow bigger. More tension. We're recruiting more motor units. And as you recruit more motor units, that means more muscle cells will contract all at the same time, and the muscle itself will contract harder. We're making the stimulus bigger here. Unlike we did with the single muscle cell, when we increase the frequency, here the stimulus is getting bigger. And as the stimulus gets bigger, we stimulate more and more of the axons within the nerve. That's how it works. And we will, at some point, reach a maximal stimulus. And when we do, we're going to generate the greatest amount of tension. Why? Because we've activated every single muscle cell in the muscle. And when every single muscle cell in that muscle contracts, that's when you can generate the greatest amount of tension. All right? It's like more people pulling on a rope. You got 3 people pulling on a rope versus 6 people versus every single person. You're just going to be able to pull harder. You're going to generate more tension. Now, by the way, each and every one of these muscle cells is twitching the same exact amount. You just have more of them twitching at the same time. It's not changing the size of the twitch of the muscle cell. The muscle cell is always twitching the same amount. It's just more of them are doing it at the same time. If you had 10 people pulling on a rope, but only 2 people pull, but everybody had the exact same strength, 5 people are going to pull harder on that rope together than only 3 people will. If 10 people is your maximum, and all of them are pulling on the rope, and they're exactly the same strength, you're going to have more tension. Everybody that is contributing to this tension is contracting about the same every single time. The properties of single muscle cells does not change when we talk about a whole muscle. It's the individual muscle cells are still behaving the way that they're supposed to. It's just more of them are doing it at the exact same time. All right? If you make the stimulus even bigger, you're not going to change tension because you don't have any more muscle cells to contract. You've already used them up. All motor units have been recruited. That's what we call the supra-maximal stimulus. So, one motor unit is recruited with the threshold stimulus. Here, the maximum number. Let's just put all of them. Let's just give ourselves even a better visual. All motor units stimulated with a maximal and a supramaximal stimulus. When it comes to the submaximal stimulus, more than one motor unit. But less than all motor units. You know what? I want to use a different word. I don't want to use the word stimulate. I'm going to use the word recruit. One motor unit recruited. More than one, but less than all motor units recruited. With a submaximal, and again, let's use the word recruit instead of stimulate. I just like that word better. All right? As the stimulus gets bigger, you recruit, or you stimulate more axons, more motor units. More motor units, more muscle cells. Okay? Are we good? That's what we just did. And so in the notes, subthreshold, threshold, submaximal, maximal, this is something that you're already familiar with. So right now, I think this is mine. I hope it's mine. I wanted to pick that up. In order for me to pick this up, I needed to generate a certain amount of tension in my finger and my thumb to pick this up, and actually to lift it up off of the desk here. I had to generate a certain amount of tension here, here, here to bring it here.